those first 3 habits of being proactive and taking responsibility, beginning with the end in mind, and first things first, those 3 habits, if you do those 3 things, it's kind of hard to get off course.
Welcome to the FocalFlip Podcast. Every week we take a deep dive into the mystery and stigma behind mental health and explore real-life stories of struggle and triumph. We aim to educate and encourage others as we bring together a diverse group of guests. From the streets to sanctuaries, classrooms to boardrooms, mental health does not discriminate, neither do we. Prepare to laugh, prepare to cry, prepare to be changed. Let's get into it. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the FocalFlip Podcast. I've got an incredibly special guest today. I know I say that a lot. Like, I've got special guests. They're all special. This one's pretty personal for me. Today I've got my friend Kyle Scott. Kyle, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Good, man. I'm going to introduce you real quick.
Okay.
And then I'm going to let you introduce you.
Okay.
So Kyle is a really good friend of mine. We both went to Simon Kenton High School. Both athletes. Kyle was a star soccer player. Really, really good. From there, went into journalism, TV, moved a couple states away. Was doing sports journalism, came back. He came back one time, and then I showed up at a church, and he was at the same church one time. And then he's been like drifting in and out kind of my life for a while. So then when I came up with this crazy idea of a focal flip, this was the first person right here that I reached out to.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. You're the first person that I reached out to.
Okay.
So Kyle has, he does a lot. He's hard to explain because he, entrepreneurial spirit, solopreneurial spirit, big faith guy, incredibly talented. He does all the video work for us. So that's been my secret. My secret is this is him. He is him. So Kyle, I love you to death, buddy. And I'm so glad we finally got you on here.
I appreciate it.
You are a huge reason for our success in the short term so far. So thank you for that, man.
Hey, it's been a pleasure. It really has been. Cool. I tell people, often it's you and I, and again, this is all conversations you and I have talked about before, but it's maybe news to other people, but like the entrepreneurial path is a lonely one. It can be a lonely one. You don't have a whole lot of support because there's not a whole lot of people on that same path, definitely not on the same path as you, but just going out and getting the support, going out and getting the finances. And, there's so many pieces to it.
Yeah.
That's why it's so easy. I mean, you see the failure rate in something when people set out to do their own thing. The overwhelming majority fail. And when I say fail, like they just quit.
Yeah.
Because it should always be taking shape, always be evolving. That acronym for fail is first attempt in learning, right? That's what it should be. You take what you've learned from that mistake or misstep and then do better the next time around. Just like we were talking about before, you're keeping metrics on this, areas where you can improve. I mean, So Mike 100% gets this stuff. And what I was getting at is I have plenty of conversations about people, whether it's in, trying to do their own thing and it mostly comes in investing. So I don't want to take too hard of a ride here, but like real estate investing, people are like, how are you doing what you're doing in that space and managing and stuff like that? And they show interest, but that's where it stops because they realize, well, that sounds pretty hard. That sounds pretty hard. Mm-hmm. And most people won't want to do hard things. And when we met that morning for breakfast, I could tell it was more than an idea. It was a passion. And not just that, but it was proof. You had a plan, a business plan. You had stuff typed out, written out, thought out. You were certainly not going there to waste anyone's time. You were going there to get clarity. And that's all I thought it was until we sat down and you shared all that. I was like, wow, Mike's he's going to do something with this. And I'm all for helping people along the way, any way that I can with my resources, my abilities, stuff like that. But your presentation was like, he's going to do this. So anything that I can do to help you. And I felt at that point, like it was just going to be like, hey, here's how to get started, which you've got the cameras and the lights and like you got started. All I do is edit it. So, I mean, that was an easy way for me to help you. So many people don't continue. It ends with that idea. And when they get a peek behind the curtain of what it takes, they're like, ooh, that actually sounds a little too hard. Maybe I'm just going to go back to what's comfortable.
Sure.
And nothing about what you're doing is comfortable. So
Not at all.
I realized that people like you and I need help and support, and there's not a ton of it out there. Even the people closest to you don't get it.
Yeah.
So,
man, I really appreciate it. It was it was cool when you had first said yes, and I was just like, this is awesome. I've always, looked up to you as far as just your talent in general. So when you had said yes, I'm like, okay, let's see what comes of this. And gosh, it was amazing. I left there feeling very validated.
Good.
So just to share this moment with you, it was, emotional for me. So from my journey there, like you said, mentioned it gets lonely. I had some really, really dark, isolated states. And so when I had this creativity and this life that I had lived in this story, it was fearful. Mm-hmm. It was scary for me to bring it up and present it, no matter how comfortable or how long I've known you, mm-hmm. Just because I was so isolated, like for so long, and it was so full of fear. And it's like, okay, you know what? Why not?
Right.
It was like, why not? So when you said yes, I'm like, okay, hold on. And that's when I say in a lot of my episodes now, it's like these people say yes. People keep saying yes to this mission and yes.
Yep.
You were that first yes. And it was like, okay, now I know operations and stuff, and I think I can piece this sucker together. Mm-hmm. But you were the huge, vital piece of that because you're such a great storyteller.
Thanks.
Seriously. You're an incredible storyteller, but you do it like behind the scenes. And you never put yourself out there really for you. That's why it's just...
Well, I did that for long enough.
I was attracted to that.
I did that for long enough. As you mentioned, I was in journalism. So my former career was TV. I was in front of the camera. Yeah. And I discovered I was no longer... At a certain point, I realized it was more of a self-serving career. It was me on TV. I was serving people and putting people on a platform that shouldn't have been on a platform, in my opinion, because of what I read, what scripture tells me, and that did not sit well with me. So I had a choice, like continue to live this comfortable life and just go through the motions of, wherever, climbing the ladder of success. I was doing well, climbing the market sizes, but I was not fulfilled. I was not satisfied. And I was covering sports. Like, yes, I was getting paid, not well, but I was getting paid to cover, UK athletics and, professional sports from time to time. With like if a local kid, I say kid, that was in the pros, I covered plenty of games. Like one of the biggest things that I covered outside of the Kentucky Derby was the All-Star game when it came to Cincinnati. That was awesome. Front row seat to that. I got behind, I was in the locker room, stuff like that, home run derby. Todd Frazier. I put together a video about him winning it. I was one of few cameras that followed him on the field afterwards. Like that
was your video?
So if you've seen it, like, yes. And
no way.
Todd commented on it. Like I sent it to him and he acknowledged it. And I was the only camera that followed him down the tunnel. A local news station asked if they could have permission. It was where I did my internship, and I was like, yeah, absolutely, take this, and just make sure you make note that it came from me. But all I have to say, like, that was my life, and it was 24/7 sports, but it was not a fulfilling life.
Whew, man. So with that not being a fulfilling life for you, was it just constantly like weighing you down as you were like continuing to do your work? Like, or was there a moment that finally said like the straw that broke the camel's back? Because for me, like that all sounds super exciting and fun.
It was,
Yeah.
But
now that I've kind of started on my own, I realize a lot of loneliness in general and stuff. And I'm sure that happens with journalists too. Mm-hmm. So was there a moment with that continuing to weigh on you and you weren't fulfilled? Did you know a way to be fulfilled?
The only thing I knew to do was pray about what God wanted me to do with my gifts, my passions. Like you said, I enjoy to tell a story. I enjoy to do it through video. How can I use what you've given me for your glory and your gain and get off of this platform of serving myself and serving those who I don't think should be on TV and getting this glory and putting athletes on pedestals, and those people are just as broken as we are, and yet we're sitting there praising them and glorifying them. So it wasn't sitting well with me. So I knew something had to give. So I don't remember how long it took, but I prayed about this, often. God, show me what to do. Show me what to do. And my wife would say this is her coming to Jesus moment. But when I came home from after the 6 o'clock news, that's when my lunch break was. I'd come home when I got the chance, not often, but I'd come home. It was a Sunday. I do remember that. And because Sundays typically weren't that busy after the 6 o'clock. So I went home. My oldest was maybe 2 or 3 at the time. And as I was leaving, she's like, you know what? She's like, this really isn't working for a family, lifestyle. You're working weekends, 20 hours on a weekend. Your off days are Tuesday, Wednesday. She was in retail, so she had split days. It was not a conducive for a good family lifestyle. And I was like, you're right. I'm ready for a change too. And I don't think she expected that. Actually, I know she didn't, because, for all she knew, she had no idea I was praying about, hey, what should I do next? Really? I'm ready for something different. No one knew that. No one knew it. I was, I would spend time out on our back patio, just, praying about it, again, going through scripture and just like, God, give me a sign. That's what he tells us to do. Ask him, ask him for some sort of direction, ask, seek, knock, so I don't know how long it took, but she said that, and I still didn't know what I was going to do, but that was all the confirmation, the affirmation that I needed. Like, okay, she's cool with me walking away from a paycheck and finding something else. And at a certain point, I was like, you know what? Like, it's possible for me to continue to tell stories. I loved, the E60 and 30 for 30 style of documentary. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do my own thing. I'm going to tell my own stories. I don't need someone else to tell me what to do. And I've made connections. And the very first project I did was, and I didn't leave the next day. I talked this over with my boss, and he people provided me with their thoughts, and he thought I was crazy for doing it, because it didn't make any sense. It was not a good, your business plan, what you came up with, far better than mine. But I had this feeling, as I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole of where this feeling came from, what part of our brain, because I'm learning about our why and all that other stuff. Yeah. But it came from a spot where I was like, I just knew it was right. And my faith was what was guiding that decision. And so my boss was like, look, it doesn't make any practical sense, but you're clearly like, and he knew I was, a man of faith, and I think just by being around me. But he's like, I respect what your decision and how strongly you feel about where this is going, that, you have my support, although I don't think it's a good decision. Straight up told me. But he's like, I envy the faith that you have to do whatever you're doing. And so I just took that step. And my first project was a documentary on the Taylor County boys basketball team. They were the preseason #1 team in the state, followed them around for the season. During that season, I went to Guatemala for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
Did a documentary on that. So that was the fork in the road. I could continue to pursue the sports realm of storytelling and stuff, or focus on, ministry, missionaries. And I just remember, like, it was when I was in Guatemala, God was like, look, you can continue to do this, what you're enjoying, this experience in Guatemala, or you can continue to go back to what you think is the right path, your plan, if you will. And when I decided, I was like, you know what, I'm going to finish this documentary and I'm done with this. And then I started to connect with missionaries in Guatemala. That exploded. And so, as he revealed more of his plan for me, as I liken it, just, he, what's it say about, just him guiding the way, like he'll just
guide your footsteps.
Yes. Like his word is just, you take one faithful step and then he'll reveal more to you. Take one more faithful step revealed. And he'll reveal, you won't see the big picture at the end, but all you have to do is take one step at a time, obedience, right?
Yeah.
And he'll reward that. You don't know what it's going to look like, but I do believe as long as we are faithful in what we've been called to do, he's going to be faithful and show us the way and provide us with that clarity. And that's all he's done ever since then. That was 2018 or 19. I'm not exactly sure when that Guatemala trip was. Maybe it was 17. Either way.
Was that the first one?
That was my first one. It might have been 17 because I started my own business in 15. I think my first mission trip was in 17 or 18.
You went to Guatemala in 17 because I went to Haiti.
Okay, there you go.
I remember.
There you go. Good memory.
Yeah.
I remember that because,
Yeah.
When we crossed paths at church.
It just came back to me.
Awesome. Yeah. So, I mean, that's when that was the first of what would be to this day 12 trips I've made to Guatemala.
No kidding.
And, COVID shut a lot of that down.
Right.
I've only been once since 2020. Like, wow. Think about that. It's been 5 years.
Was that last year?
In a matter of 3 or 4 years, I went 11 times. And then during COVID, I've been once, and then I haven't been back since that one time during like the late 2020, I think it was.
Are you planning on going back though?
I'd love to. I'd love to branch out and do ministry work and serve missionaries with, my skill set. When I go there, I tell stories, right? I used to take my camera with me. Otherwise, I'd be doing a huge disservice. So that's where my gifts come into play, to help those ministries tell their story and those missionaries get their message out for support and awareness and stuff like that. So I would love to. Selfishly, I'd love to go to different parts of the world. And there might be something on the horizon with a new connection I've made recently, but only time will tell. Again, just taking that next faithful step, see where it leads.
So when you it's just such a cool story, because I've been to be here and watch you grow with this whole thing while you've been coaching me and kind of iron sharpening iron. I just think about the fear, like even being married, having kids, even having like spousal support, like emotional support, actually stepping out and do it, and then going to Guatemala and recording, finding your passion. Like while you were enjoying doing ministry work and being in Guatemala and feeling that out, did you have any fears how this sucker was going to work? Because your faith was huge.
Yeah.
And the big thing that we always talk about is faith over fear. Mm-hmm. But I know how fear works.
Yeah.
And faith has to firmly trump it.
Yeah. It's you and I I've shared with you how the ebb and flow of my business can be. Like there's months where I have great months where I don't have so great of months. And, I'm the sole provider now. My wife stays at home. At that time, she wasn't. Like she worked. So we had a definite source of income. And if it wasn't for her working, my business probably wouldn't have survived, because the first few years were tough. I didn't hardly make anything, enough that it was helpful, but it wasn't what I do today. So, it's easy to get caught up in like, oh my goodness, I don't know how I'm going to provide next month. And that's the reality for what I do. If I allow myself to focus on that, then it can be stressful and create anxiety and all the unnecessary things that won't help me in any way.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It won't.
So I hate that, but it is that simple. Like I choose to focus on the fact that God has been faithful, and I have plenty of examples from my experience so far that he's going to continue to be faithful as long as I'm faithful. Like this is year 10. Started in 15, it's now 25. 10 years of doing video production. Of course, I do different things now, other things that keep me busy. But even in those areas, I have to be faithful. He has to be a part of every single thing that I do. He's not just in a box, as some people say. And, I go there on Sundays and hang out with, and worship him. But, like Jesus has to be part of everything that I do. And, it's if he isn't, then I'm probably going to make a selfish decision or something that, my heart desires, wrong intention, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But the moment that I include him, I know I'm going to make a better decision.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Doesn't mean I won't make a mistake still.
Sure. Yeah. The mistakes are still going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? Well, and that's really cool that you say that. I had a tumultuous relationship with Jesus, or so I thought, the interesting thing that I learned through putting things in mental perspectives was like positivity and negativity and all these things, sorting those, and the positive stuff can always outweigh the negative thoughts. And then I started to think about, well, hold up, those negative thoughts could be Satan,
Yeah.
My positive thoughts are going to be Jesus, I went through my struggles and was like mad because I would pray, but I wasn't genuinely doing it. Mm-hmm. It was surface level.
Yeah.
So what I've noticed with you, and it's helped me as well, I can see that you stay firm in your faith, because you 100% start your day out with it. But you have like a daily devotional that you put out on video that's really cool. Walk with Jesus Daily devotional. And it's neat. You share scripture and walk through scripture and life application. It's awesome. Like, it's really, really cool. So with you staying in the word every time and putting that back out, I'm sure that makes it a lot easier for you to fight.
Yes.
To fight the devil.
Yes.
To fight the worldly, sinful desires that are out there tempting us.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, if I didn't start my day, if I wasn't proactively approaching the day, then I'm going to be reactive and, probably not respond the way that I should. Yeah. And that devotional came from a small group that I was part of in Lexington. Okay.
Oh, it was Lexington.
Yeah. I'll get to how the devotional, the video came, but it came from a discipleship that I was part of. And all it was messaging amongst 4 or 5 guys. And that carried on for some time. And then I went and Amanda and I and our family moved back north here. That group started to fall apart because people were moving to different areas. We'd been doing it for a couple of years. So at that time, I was already every single day in the Bible. But I was like, I need to keep this going. Like, I need more accountability. And that was one of the ways, obviously, you and I got connected, was you were part of that group. But even more so, it turned into videos because of the church that we went to and Pastor Jeff. He had such, and I think he realizes, maybe he doesn't, to the extent of the impact he had on my spiritual journey. And it's not like we were buddy, but he was certain, like, we could easily sit here and talk. Like, we picked up with, the last time we were together. Like, he's that solid of a guy. But I remember a sermon he shared, and I was doing my daily devotionals, right? But it was just through words. It was just typing them out and sharing them with the group. Yeah. But how does that scripture go? It's funny because I know plenty of scripture, but I can't quote much of it. Like, it's just in there, and I just try to act it out, right? I'm not great at memorizing it. Yeah. But he said that the harvest is few. The harvest is plentiful and the workers are few. So in other words, there's plenty out there, but there's not enough people out there, harvesting and planting those seeds and watering those seeds. And I remember it convicted me to think, I could share more. I've got this experience of being in front of a camera and talking to a camera comfortably. Like, I had a skill set of being in front of a camera, and just talking. So, and editing and stuff like that. I was like, so I need to start taking this message, what I'm writing, and just start sharing it through video form. Otherwise, I'm doing a disservice. So I didn't want to be one of those people who took that message that he shared that day and not do something with it. I wanted to be one of the few that help share the message. So. You do, and you stick with it, even when you travel. Yeah, I try to. Yeah, it's difficult if I'm on the West Coast and it's 3 hours behind. Yeah, 3 hours. We can tell you by your background. Yeah, yeah, it's pretty evident that I'm at a different spot. Yeah, so plug on that. Everybody go follow Walk with Jesus Daily Devotional. Nailed it. And he puts it up every single day. It's inspirational. It can create just really, really good thought processes for your day. It can really set you straight. It's cool that you stick with it. One of the pieces of advice Kyle gave me when we first met was to not quit. And I will tell you what my observations have been since I've been in the social media world for other people and stuff. That's the piece of advice that I will 100% take from you. Awesome. And it's in every single thing that I do. Awesome. Even with content. When I get frustrated or I get down and I don't want to put the content out, I still know to put that content out because your voice rings in the back of my head. And I'll give a shout out to Blake Wayman too, because Blake, we were friends a long time ago. I've talked to him maybe 3 times total in the last year, and this dude has given me incredible wisdom. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you go at this and don't quit, And then with WWJD, the devotional that you're doing, you don't quit. You don't get into the view counts and all this other stuff. And then I went back and looked at your Instagram and I watched what God does and multiplies that stuff. And I look at it collectively and it's just like, this is good stuff. And it's fun and it's helpful. Good. But for me, I need to incorporate it more. Yeah. I feel like I've just been passively looking at it because I went through my journey of being angry with the Bible. Now I'm back in the Bible, and
a best book ever. It's legit.
Yeah.
I also read the red book, Liber Novus, and for Carl Jung. So I like to see the mental stuff and the spiritual stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
want to be fed all the way through.
Yeah.
Take the leap, start your own business. You've not only just started your own business, like you're doing a lot, man. Like he has an amazing wife and amazing kids. Golly, he started getting in the volleyball stuff. He does real estate. He's got some rental properties that are, down in the hills in Kentucky. I mean, sometimes I'll send a text and just be like, how are you doing this? Like, you're going to have to teach me this at some point. Because you're very good at organization and structure, but then your discipline. Mm-hmm. I think the discipline is what makes it different with you. Like, how do you have the discipline and create the organization and structure for all the things that you do now?
Yeah, I completely, again, it's going to sound cliche, but give God the credit where credit is due, and that, he made me in the fact, like, I'm a disciplined person. That came natural to me as an athlete. You have to stay disciplined to be good at your sport, to be, among the best. You have to put in the work. And I think I took that more for granted, though, growing up. And it didn't come to me till much later, like in high school years, like, oh, I should probably put in a little more work. So I got into, working out when I was in high school. So I've now been working out for more than half of my life because I started when I was like 16. Mm-hmm. And so, physical training was important to me. Like I wanted to, be strong, be fast, and, to be a good athlete. If I'm being honest, I want to look good too. It looks good if you're a fit person. So,
yeah.
And that discipline of just getting in the gym and taking care of my body, I did it for so long. I tell people it's like brushing my teeth. Like I just wake up and I go. Like, it's just part of my routine. I've got a, every morning routine of 4 or 5 things that have to happen, and that's one of them. So,
yeah.
And I don't go every day, but I've got a schedule of things. And so that one came natural, the discipline, thankfully, because I look around and think, well, that's not an easy thing.
Thankfully, for sure.
Yes.
It's not an easy thing.
No, so don't get me wrong. There's when that alarm goes off at 5 a.m, I do not want to get out of bed when it's 0 degrees out. Like it feels good to be in bed. So, but nothing wakes you up like walking outside in shorts and it's 0 degrees. So, that's I'm thankful that the discipline, I like to say, came natural. I have very good parents who exemplified, good work ethic and stuff like that. So I don't think it 100% came natural, but also a good example to follow, like why I should be disciplined in what I do. But as I got older, started to pursue the personal development stuff, reading books like we talked about before we hopped on here. One that was instrumental is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Mm. Those first 3 habits of being proactive and taking responsibility, beginning with the end in mind, and first things first, those 3 habits, if you do those 3 things, it's kind of hard to get off course.
That's the first time I've heard somebody say that to me out loud, actually.
It sounds simple, but it's, again, it's not that easy.
The first 3 habits, it's true.
But it's all about doing that inner work, taking care of those personal victories, the stuff that no one sees, But, I have a daily routine. I have a weekly schedule, and I know, you asked about how do I put all that stuff in order? First things first. The first thing for me is, I could say Jesus, and he is, but he's in everything. So I'm not even going to say that. Like, that's a given. Like, he's got to be in everything that I do. Like, if I'm, pursuing an investment, like, I made this mistake. I used my practical wisdom to make a decision, and then I went to him, God, please bless this. So I went ahead of him and asked him to bless something rather than going before him and asking him to bless something.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like, it was like,
what a great perspective.
I made this decision. Now, it was practically made sense, but can you go ahead and make sure that this works out? Instead of saying, God, is this what I'm supposed to do? Is this going to work out? Show me signs. Because when I've done that,
there's a difference.
Huge. Because I've done the other thing, and it's like, he's literally shut a door. Just recently, my wife and I were looking for a new primary home. We went and looked at a place. It had been on the market for 20-something days. So not a new listing at all. We went and looked at it. We talked about it. It looked great, but it was like, okay, let's pray about this. Like, genuinely, God, show us what to do. Show us if this is meant to be. The very next day, that house went pending. It had been on the market for weeks. The very next day. So we talked about it that night before and said, you know what?
I love it.
Let's just pray about it. Next morning, pending notification. I was like, well, there's my sign.
There's your answer.
Thank you. Now, would it have gone pending if we didn't pray about it? Maybe. Guess what? I'll never know.
You won't.
So anytime that
That's a really cool story.
he's got to be part of everything.
Yeah.
And then, after that, it's just like, okay, what needs to get done now? What's first things first? And if it's spending time with my kids, because we homeschool, as you know, so they're always there, except my youngest, she's in preschool. I'm sorry, kindergarten, but next school year, she'll start homeschool with Mackenzie. But they're always around. So if they pop in my office when I'm editing, and they're like, hey, Dad, let's go jump on the trampoline. I'll be like, okay, well, I'm out of work. I can step away. I'll just go out there and be on the trampoline.
Nice, isn't it?
You know what I mean? Like it could be 11 o'clock in the morning and kid wants to go out on the trampoline. Like that's leads me to that quote though. How about that segue?
I know. Perfect segue.
Yeah, if you take care of the moments, then the years will take care of themselves. So I see that as an opportunity to say, you know what, I'm going to be there. Not just physical, but go out there and be there and be part of what she wants to do. To know that Dad's right there whenever she wants and to be involved with her life. And hopefully we're setting that good example for her. So, the years, we've got her on the right track, and she, with the principles and values that my wife and I are teaching, but they're, we have a great relationship with our kids that's of utmost importance because they're only kids for so long and that time's gone.
I know. Time
is gone. So it's easy for me to step away.
Yeah,
it's like
you and Amanda are great leaders. You really are. It's really cool to see.
Well, I appreciate it.
It's just, I say that because clearly, I have two, Elena and Corbin. And they are at the age right now where they're really seeing and watching what I do, and then the conversations and everything that happen afterwards and the deeper ones, it's like they're getting it.
Awesome.
And it's just really encouraging.
Awesome.
And so, when you start to see the fruit from that, it's hard to explain. It's super humbling. But I'm sure that's the feeling that you get, like with Maddie, like volleyball and stuff, when you get to go out and choose to play volleyball and she's choosing a sport. And it's a sport that you didn't know.
Nothing about.
You don't know anything about it. And it is fascinating because that's what she's into. And now you've made that what you guys are into together as a family.
I love it. Yeah, you're right. Like she has more experience than me. She started at 9. I had no knowledge of volleyball at all. We just had a friend that said, "Hey, has Maddie ever played volleyball?" And and I love that story because like God placed that family in our life for a season, for a reason, and that was it. I think exposed her to volleyball. She's just a natural athlete, and she was playing soccer at the time, and again, athlete. But she doesn't play soccer anymore, just plays volleyball. And, she's grown. She hasn't even been playing 3 years and she's grown so much in that sport. And it's because all we do is, she gets done with school and, I'll ask if she wants to practice. I don't force her hand in it, but she enjoys the sport. And I think she enjoys that time that her and I have together.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to take advantage of that for as long as I can.
Right.
So she's super coachable, which is not like most kids because I have coached volleyball ever since she started now. And most kids are not the most receptive from what I've experienced. So it's like, okay, I know my limits, and it's probably around that 11-year mark that I don't need to coach kids any older than this.
Cutting myself off.
I'll coach younger kids. Mackenzie, my youngest, when she gets a little older, I'll coach her. But at 11, might need to cut it off. But Maddie's super coachable, and that's what's made her so good.
Yeah, I think that's neat. I think it's cool that you're so involved, and then you actually like lead things with her on that. Funny side note: Andrea Sullivan just texted me back yesterday, gave me the thumbs up. She'll be here next week. So she is a goat of volleyball coaches in Northern Kentucky.
Yeah. Well, I learned that from editing I learned so much from watching your podcast. So it's almost like, it's, I don't want to say self-serving, but I'm sitting here, I'm editing, I'm working, but I'm also learning. So, I learned that about her. And we've actually seen Scott play when my cousin who plays for Highlands, they played each other. So just funny how that works.
Yeah.
So I don't know her from Adam, or Eve, I guess, but I mean, it's.
See, I know Tim pretty well. I just met Tim when I started coaching, and I don't really know her either. So I'm excited to, I know her, but I don't know her story.
Sure.
I don't know how that all came to be. like she's like artistic, like all those kind of things. So I think it's going to be fun for me too, because it's going to give a different perspective. Number one, it's women and it's volleyball and it's kids and youth.
Yeah.
Like I'm fast. I want to see how
Can't wait to
even
edit
works.
that one.
Because all I've known is boys and stuff.
Right.
Like it's basketball, football, baseball,
Right.
all that. So yeah, maybe we can do like some sort of volleyball collab.
Yeah. Sign me up.
But yeah,
I'm in.
I love that. Your segue was fantastic. If you take care of the moments, the years will take care of themselves. And that's it for me. It's every single moment. Even when I got sober, I know I only have today. And a lot of alcoholics and addicts will sit there and tell you, we only have the day. I take it farther than that, Kyle. I tell them it's not that. I only have a moment. I don't. I mean, there's no telling what event or what happened that could change the course of the day.
Yeah.
And so
That's awesome.
I love that you put that in there on the moments, because
That's powerful.
Yeah, and they accumulate.
Yeah.
And I think people, if with specific intention, daily in moments, the reason why you say the years will take care of themselves is because they accumulate. And when Christ tells us more will be revealed in faith and in obedience, more gets revealed. And that's what's been the interesting thing for me was I think my problem for the longest time was I wanted it revealed right away. And I wanted to be in control of the time it took for him to reveal it to me.
Yeah.
Give it to me.
Right.
And when I don't get it, I'm going to get mad and blame it and then go find myself finding something else to get spiritual. And I sat down, like that's just been the whole thing. I've learned so much from this whole journey and just saying yes. The spiritual thing was massive for me. I didn't realize that it was a spiritual malady, And I look back, back in the day, they call it beer, wine, spirits because there's a spiritual malady.
That's good. I've never even thought about that.
People would be seeking and using alcoholic substances or plants or any other kind of thing.
Never thought of that.
To seek a spiritual experience.
Wow.
And that's what that came to be, and it ended up becoming poisoning them. So the idea of the spirituality was fascinating for me because I confused it with religion.
Yes.
That was my problem. One of my big problems. And you, like you said, Pastor Jeff, he was huge to me too, and I don't think he knows that either. But yeah, just all of those people, that accumulation of just those moments, all of those things is now the years have taken care of their self because it sharpened me to where I finally got the courage to do something. I'm sure that's similar with you when you started to step out in faith. And
I love looking back on how God's plan, as long as I stay out of his way, right? Just obediently do what he reveals to me to do.
Yeah.
His word is our lamp, right? That's the psalm I was trying to think of before, right? And it shines just enough light to say, okay, that's the step I should take, or probably shouldn't take. Like he's not going to lead us down the wrong path, right?
Right.
So the closer I stay connected to him and that, like it reveals more of what I need to do. As much as I'd like to know the outcome, I can trust that it's the right decision. Maybe not the way that I would have forecasted it to be, right? Or unfolded the way that I wanted it to unfold. But that's just part of being faithful and obedient. And I guess the other thing I want to make clear is that it's the element of that spiritual, that element that you just talked about. I was the same way. I was brought up in church. It was more religional, more religion rather than relational. I had no idea what a relationship with Jesus was like until I was about 27 years old. So not going to go down that rabbit hole today, but it was, an experience that I was like, oh, I've been doing this wrong my whole life. Like I'm supposed to read this word. It's supposed to be challenging to me and convicting to me and showing me where I can do better. And so it's prepared me for when things happen, right? Like bad things are going to happen, to me and to my family. So how am I going to handle those things? I need to turn to his word. And as long as his word is taking root, that's the stuff that I'm more inclined to make better decisions when it happens, right? And have the right response. Don't always, but the more that I dive into that, that's more the stuff that's going to take root and not the worldly stuff that once, that's, trying to trip us up and grab for our attention.
Amazing. It's been a great episode, Kyle.
I appreciate it, man.
This has been a really, really great episode.
It's been fun.
I put my thing away. I don't even know what we've got left on there because we've talked enough mental health and spirituality in general.
Hey, man, I as long as you're good, I'm good. I mean, because we could talk all day about the questions that you sent me, we could have talked all day about. But I at least want to end on the fact of how proud I am of you for doing what you're doing. Thanks. I've had plenty of people, and I know a lot of people say that, like, hey, good for you for what you're doing. Again, I watch these episodes, I edit them, and it is awesome what you're doing. But I think what a lot of people don't see is the fact that this can be a lonely road, and the example that you're setting for other people, because this is a small part of what you do. Like, people think, oh, Mike just does a podcast. No, Mike does a lot more than just a podcast. In fact, this is a small bit of what you do. So your grind and helping those who are literally in recovery, who are literally battling an addiction or a mental illness, like, you do that on the daily. This is a very small part. Like, you are providing a platform to talk about it, which is awesome. This is great. But what you do outside of here, and you already touched on it before about how your kids see it. So you're making an impact on the people that you are working with and trying to get on the right track. But more importantly, what you're doing within the home, and your kids see the example that you are, that you're persevering, that you're not quitting, that you are doing whatever it takes to continue to, see this thing through. Because again, I've had plenty of people show an interest or, an idea, but that's, unfortunately where it ends. I love when people ask about what I do and I can try to help them. And when they do it, that lights me on fire. It's just like, cool, they're doing it now. Because I know this is not easy. It's, and it's so rewarding, for me to see. I'm just a small part of it. You've got to do the work, So as you were doing the work, I'm like, okay, like, he's one of the few. He's doing it, Well,
thank you, man. That means a lot.
Yeah.
That means a whole lot to me without getting emotional. I'm an emotional person, so.
I'm not. My wife will tell you. Yeah. I'm not the most.
No, I appreciate that because it's a grind, and that's not often talked about, It's a hard work, and you've helped me a lot.
Awesome.
And I can't wait for this to continue to touch people. My goal was for touch one.
It's done that.
And we've already got there.
No doubt.
So now it's what can we do? And so, man, I just love you. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah, that was very nice. I don't know how to end. So, yeah.
We'll let Elena take us out.
We're out. Okay, you ready to wrap this thing up?
If you like FocalFlip's videos, my dad's videos, go to YouTube, Spotify, and Apple, and like and subscribe to be updated.
I love it.